Okay, recording, is it recording? Yes. All right, so this is the first of what will be 3 Zoom events with Fomite authors. This has been requested by our local television station, which is a terrific community television station with a wonderful studio, terrific production facilities, machines you can take out and whatever, and now is closed up, right? But they still have the station, and they want some programming, and they want programming of political, cultural significance, because that's what they usually do. And so they asked if we could get, 1 or 2 or 3 a series of discussions about writing from writers, writing during the COVID. And I thought, well, yeah, I mean, why don't we just ask our authors and see who wants to do this? And you were the guy, you plus 2 other groups were the people who responded. And so this is the first 3 meetings. And the idea is to discuss not necessarily each other's books, it might come up, but rather how you as writers, me as writer-editor, Donna as editor-producer, have experienced the situation now, and especially as it affects your creative energies and what you feel you need to write about, and how you perceive as a writer what's going on around you. And there are lots of different around yous. There's 2 Chicagos, I think, and Cambridge, Massachusetts. And are you in Paris, Nick?
Yes.
And Ilan, is in Brooklyn?
No, he's.
Where are you?
He's in Summer. Are you still in Somerville?
Well, I live in Somerville. I nodded when you said Cambridge because it's close enough to Cambridge.
Yeah. Okay.
But presently, I'm in an outskirt of Boston called Watertown, where my girlfriend lives and where I've been staying during the occupation. Let's call it.
2 Bostons, 2 Chicagos, and
One is near Boston, right?
I'm in Massachusetts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so everybody is East Coast, and Nick is very, very far East Coast. So
Chicago's not exactly East Coast.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Rounding up.
Yeah, so rounding up. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, let me just start with a little anecdote that happened yesterday. Oh, where's Breezer? Here's Tina.
Okay, well.
Oh,
fine.
Anybody's welcome. Tina is, hi, Tina.
Hi, how are you?
Hi. Can you, let's hear you talk.
What's that?
Your audio needs to be louder, or you need to be closer.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Vaguely.
Vaguely.
Yes.
I have a problem then. I don't have an external. Sorry to be late.
No, you're okay.
It's okay. But this is the only time you should chalk this up where you come off as vague.
Thank you.
Tina's the only person who lives here
In Burlington.
In Burlington, and she is in your face. That's all I can say.
I try my best.
Okay, so anyway, yesterday I was writing. There's a new satirical online magazine, and I was writing a piece for them. And it was about
Confidentiality.
Oh yeah, it was about
Privacy.
Yeah, it was about
internet privacy.
Internet, right? Yeah, whatever. Okay, and just as I finished, I got a email exactly as I finished from a guy who I thought was going to be on today, but he'll be on another day. David Breezer, who sent me a story he had just exactly finished. So we were writing it at the same time, And his story was about the world of the men and the women who occupy the silos, the missile silos, and that somehow all of them individually started to have no contact with Central Command. And then they started to contact each other and found out that all the other people had no contact with Central Command. And so the conclusion was that that everybody had died, right? And the only people who were surviving were these people down in the tunnels, right? And so they realized they have to go out and repopulate the world. And so they arrange a convention of the ex-silo people. In the meantime, the silos have become available for rats and fleas and all kinds of plague, and they take over and they wipe out and that's it. And it's the roaches that triumph. And and I thought, here's David and myself, who are not doing very much writing, thanks to you guys. We're both sitting here writing about death and plague, although mine was funnier. And this was sort of serious. I thought that's very, very weird, because my general take is that our lives, Donna's and my lives, have not been a lot affected, because Vermont, Burlington, Vermont, where we are, Vermont itself is the lowest per capita infection state in the country. And, it's partly rural. Burlington is a, quote, city, 40,000 people, but it's categorized as a city, small city. And there's very little that has changed in our life, because we work at home on Fomite. The biggest thing is that I'm a cellist, and orchestra's not rehearsing, and Donna's the choral singer, and her chorus is not rehearsing, so we're not making music. And that's the biggest change in our life. And, we go out and walk in the street, and some people are wearing masks, some people are not. There certainly is never any need in our neighborhood to be closer than 6 feet, unless you go to the store. And Donna's been doing that because she's not as geezery as I am, not as big a geezer. We're trying to go once every 3 weeks. But it's sort of a game for us, It's not a game in the world, and I understand that. It's very, very serious, and getting seriouser as the economic consequences complicate the whole thing. So we're writers. We're all of us, except Donna is a writer facilitator. I mean, Donna is what makes Fomite work. Donna does all the work. I just, futz around with you guys. She does all the production. So, what's going on for you? How do writers, what's our role as writers? What's your role? How has your life changed? Where are you? What's it like? Geez, I can't imagine Paris now. I can't imagine Chicago now. I can't even imagine Boston now. What's going on? Say where you are and what's going on for you as a writer. That's what this is about.
Okay. I'm in Paris and my mask broke today, so that's what's going on. Yes.
Mask did what?
My mask broke today.
Oh, it broke?
Yes, you need a mask to go into some shops, and my mask broke. So.
And what are you going to do?
What's happening in Paris? I don't know. It was free, and I don't want to buy one. So I'm gonna wait until I can get another free one. I have to sign up with a different address or something. So that's what's happening in Paris. Yes, my mask broke. That's the main issue.
Where do you get free masks?
From the pharmacy, but you're only allowed a certain number per household. Yes. Yes, it's supposed to last 20 washes. I haven't washed it once. Yes.
Maybe you can fix it.
Yeah, I have. I sewed it up. I haven't tested it yet.
So
Yeah.
this is done to your head.
It's my face mask.
No,
Yes.
not, what has it done to your psyche?
Nothing much. I had to get out my sewing kit, which is not enjoyable for me. Yes, that's what it did for my psyche. Yes, and also haven't been able to cut my hair, so that's the main issue in Paris. Yes, masks, the break, and getting a haircut. Yes.
Are there a lot of deaths?
I keep an eye on it. Okay. At about 8 p.m. it gets updated. It's come down to like 100 a day in France, but yes,
Wow.
so it used to be like 500 a day, so it's coming down. It's still quite a lot. It's not as bad as America.
Do you have any in your life? Sorry.
In my life,
In your
no, it hasn't affected anyone in my life. No.
Michele had her hand up.
Yeah, I'm not. I've stopped facilitating. To just barge in. Michele was saying something.
Yes, everyone else can barge in as I barged in.
Well, I'll tell you, as a writer for stage and as a performer, my world has changed dramatically. I was in a musical that had to be moved to Zoom. That was a drag because musicians don't translate well to Zoom. I have several plays in some festivals that have been moved. So I thought, well, maybe during lockdown, I'll write fiction because I do write some fiction as well. And I found myself writing plays again because I miss hearing people talk. I miss dialogue. I miss action. I miss social events. So despite my best intentions, I'm still writing plays. And I've submitted a few to some shorter festivals, COVID-related plays. But that's mainly how it's affected me is the absence of live theater. That's a huge void.
You know, I was reading your play last night. That was what I was thinking while I was reading it. It must be really hard because fiction, you could just lay it on the page and it's there to be read. But with performance, you need people, you need interaction. It's the whole. I mean, what would have drew you to that in the first place? Drew you to plays and rather than fiction? What was it? Just that's what you wanted to write, or is there?
No, not at all. I was an actor for many years, and then we had a son. And when my son was born, I thought I just can't be out every night. So I started writing plays because I could hear people in my head, and that's how I started doing it. And I could stay home, and I could still have my work performed. And I do perform occasionally now, probably a little bit more now that he's older. But that's why I started writing plays. Just to.
Do you ever think of screenplays? Would you ever do screenplays?
No, it's not as much fun for me. I like the energy between the stage and the performers. I like that feeling of energy. So I probably should. It's more lucrative, but.
But just this, given what's happening now, rather than, instead of the fact that you still want to write plays and you still want to have the people and the interaction, where because of what's happening now, it would seem like that would be something that could be done. Although I don't know how filming is happening now or anything.
Yeah,
well, you have to have hope, right? I mean, I hope theaters do come back, and
yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Theater started with the plague. I mean, that's what Oedipus was wandering around.
Right. I'll jump in. Yeah, actually, I am retired and I write at home. So in some ways our life hasn't changed much at all. Although our adult sons are staying with us. So we're a full house at the moment, and that's been wonderful. It also has its challenges. At first I couldn't write at all. I just was so, I think with a lot of people, I was so preoccupied by just sort of how do we get food and let's make masks and all of that. But then it started coming back. And number one, it's a diversion from thinking about what's going on. So that's good. And also, like, why not? You better do it now, because the sense of life being fragile. So the thing that I'm sure you've all experienced this now, when I watch a movie and I see people sitting next to each other, there's that, you know, why aren't they distancing? And a little of that has gone into my writing. Like, wait a minute, they're going to a restaurant. How can they do that? So I have to sort of separate out that new sense of the rules now versus what I'm working on. But for me, it's been, my life is much less affected than it has for a lot of people. I miss going out as much. We live less than a mile from Lake Michigan, and I can't go over to the lake because it's closed. You know, things like that are strange, but it's not a huge change.
I feel like here in Chicago, where I am and Jan is, that there's a layer of anxiety that is just runs under everything, whether you're acutely worried about it or not, just because our rates of infection and of death are so high. And I think most people here, well, I shouldn't say most, because I don't know. When I go out on the street, sometimes I see only about half the people wearing masks. But there's at least I have pretty strict attention to, you know, rules of sanitation and distance and so on. But that really prevents me from writing anything new. I mean, I've done some revision and worked on some things that are connected with my book, which is coming out soon, and that got like totally bollocksed because I had to cancel all my dates. But I can't like sink into that place that I have to be to really just you know, let my imagination go to work. That is not happening during COVID for me.
Well, for me, I think, you know, I think the chief duty that any creative person has in a given day is to cordon off time to do what you need to do, to create what you need to create. So whether it's under pandemic circumstances or what we previously called normal life, the idea is whether you wake up early or you section off a few hours, whatever you need, more on weekends, probably, you just have to do it. So I feel fortunate that, at least for me, the way that the pandemic has touched, you know, I know a few people who have it, but fortunately I remain employed and able-bodied and able to write. And as long as that's the case, I feel that's the chief duty. And some of it is blocking out the exterior noise, but to some extent that's not different than ordinary times where everybody wants to shout and scream about who the president is or what he said, and you still have to sort of buckle down and focus on your work and try to make it in a way that fulfills your goals, whether those goals are to create something that is timeless or that speaks to the current moment. So my routine in closing is really just the same. I get up every day, I work on my book, and then, you know, a couple of hours later, I proceed with the obligations. And fortunately, as dire as the pandemic has become, I've been able to keep to my routine. And I think we're all fortunate to have creative routines, because I think one thing you learn during a time like this is that they help keep you saner than people who don't have that daily thing to cling to and to create.
I would be the same. I need to write. I need to spend some time sitting down and writing something. If I'm not writing it, I'm thinking about it. And I have 3 daughters now. I have 16, 13, and 10. So they're doing homeschooling and they're doing bits and pieces. But obviously, I don't get the time I used to get when they were in school. So it's kind of get up in the morning and get 3 hours done and then be with them. But, you know, my teenager, you have to drag her out of a room anyway, but, you know, you have to be around. But lately what I've been finding, I kind of started it in March anyway, before everything went crazy. I was doing a lot of flash fiction and short stories because I really wanted to learn the flash fiction. What is it with flash fiction? So I've been really concentrating on that and competitions. And so I'm finding it that, you know, I'm working on a book too that I was working on before, but I'm finding it harder to set on this longer pieces. I like doing the shorter pieces because I'm just kind of there now anyway. There was a competition that was write a short story in 29 words. 29 and it was 145 words altogether. So there's 5 sections of 29 words that should all be a story, but they all come along as a story too.
Mm.
So I just finished doing that, and I actually won the 53 press competition for 53 word stories, and I just heard I'm a finalist for one, but I can't say anything about it. So I've been working, that's what I'm working at, trying to hone that kind of thing. And I think it'll benefit when I go back to my novels, just the words and my use of words, it's going to really benefit. And I'm lucky, I mean, I live in the countryside, so we've got space, which I think for me, for creativity, I need. And we've got the woods where I can take the dog. So there's certain ways that it's tough and it's hard because the girls can't see their grandparents. I think that's, one of the hardest, like they'll come for a few minutes and wave and everything like that. So that's kind of, and knowing when, to say to your kids that you can't play with other kids, you can't, like the summer, I'm not looking forward to that, the heat and not being able to. But yeah, I wouldn't. I keep writing during it. I think that's what keeps me sane. Is through it all is to keep thinking about other stuff. And it's just like you said. It's just keep you. It's like when you're doing any kind of fiction, you're living your own life. You live in a different world. Okay, so you forget for a while what the pandemic is like. That's what I'm doing.
I find that I'm far too stupid to write a short story, and that it takes me, if I get an idea, it takes me 100 pages to figure out if it has legs and where it's going. Once it's 100 pages in, it writes itself, and it can go to 800 pages, as my Kafka Roach does. But you have to know what you're doing to write short stories.
That's it, yeah.
You have to know what you're doing to write a 53 word story. And I have no idea what I'm doing. So
I think it's just practice, though. I mean, if you decided that you wanted, it's a matter of, do you want to write a short story? Because if you did want to write a short story, you'd be well able to do it. But
you have to know what you're doing.
I think if the form suits you, I think we all have different forms that suit us. I prefer short stories too. I write a lot of flash. I just think if it suits you, if that kind of form comes easily to you, do it. If it doesn't, don't even bother. I'm lazy.
No, I think you go to what works best for you, and that's what you should do.
Yeah.
I had a question that arose with a playwright yesterday. They may be cutting us off. I've never experienced this before, because I got a flash that said you get 40 minutes. I've never gotten that flash before in political meetings. Somehow they let political meetings go on.
It might be that because you're recording.
Oh, recording. So, okay, maybe the recording stops, and that's
Zoom is normally only for 40 minutes, unless you have your own, unless you pay them for a month, then you get your own room.
Okay, that hasn't been my experience. I mean, I've been on a lot of Zooms for political meetings.
But don't you think the person that hosted them might have arranged to hack the Zoom?
Anyway,
they go on for 40 minutes, and then you can re-sign, and they don't have a time limit after that.
So is it going to?
If you went back on it again, they wouldn't have a time limit the next time. For this,
everybody click on the same link, and we'll be back here. That's the lesson.
Okay. Really?
The
yes,
question
try
I
it.
have, which I think has serious consequences, is how can we make this, what you're seeing in front of you, 7 boxes, 7 in a little box, become an art form? Rather than what it is now, which is at its most obvious level.